Hi, it's Will from the Yukon Gold podcast. Now, I've been doing this for a long time, but if you haven't, there's an easier way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's completely free, it's online and mobile, and there's creation tools that will allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google, Stitcher, Amazon, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Now, if that seems like a good idea to you, follow this link below and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome back to the Yukon Gold podcast with Will S. Yukon Gold is about creating a sustainable future for everyone on planet Earth. We help people to reach their full potential by delivering the gold standard in renewable energy, design, and education. Follow, like, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and check us out at yukongoldenergy.com. Today on the podcast, I would like to talk about Megawatt battery storage and how that is going to play out in the next 5 to 10 years. Now, the major success story that we like to talk about is from South Australia. It's called the Hornsdale Power Reserve, and it's a 150 megawatt or 194 megawatt hour grid-connected energy storage system, and it's located at the Hornsdale Wind Farm in the mid-north region of South Australia, just north of Adelaide. And the original installation in 2017 was the largest lithium-ion battery in the world at the time. Now, the way that this project came about and was completed is that, per usual, Elon Musk made a bold statement that he could complete the project in 100 days, and he honored that by actually completing it in under 100 for a total of 63 days. Now, the owner is called Neoen, and the renewable energy company is headquartered in Paris, France. It owns and operates solar and wind farms in 13 countries on 4 continents. South Australia received over 90 proposals and considered 5 projects to build a grid-connected battery to increase grid stability under adverse weather conditions. As I said, Elon Musk placed a wager that the battery would be completed within 100 days of contract signature, otherwise the battery would be free. Tesla had already begun construction, and some units were already operational by September 29, 2017, at the time the grid contract was signed. The battery construction was completed and testing began on the 25th of November 2017. It was connected to the grid on the 1st of December 2017. 63 days between grid contract and completion easily beat Musk's wager of 100 days from contract signature. Samsung-sized 21700 side cells were used. It also was expanded in November of 2019. Neoen announced it would increase the battery capacity by 50%, and it would cost another $71 million. And it was funded by the $50 million from the state government and $8 million from ARENA, and up to $50 million in cheap loans through the Clean Energy Finance Corporation. The expansion was completed by Yukon on September 2nd, 2020, increasing its impact on the South Australia grid. So basically the way that these battery systems work is during off-peak times and when the wind or solar is at full capacity, it stores up a battery charge for a certain amount of time. So in this case, it's a megawatt facility, so they can store up to 194 megawatt hours. And the way to do that, and the way that it helps stabilize the grid, is during peak times when the wind or the solar is not producing as much, it can then deliver that peak energy back to the grid to help firm up the power. Now, this is one of the largest in the world, but now Australia is mostly transitioning to wind and solar, and its coal plants are heading for retirement. So this creates grid volatility as renewable production waxes and wanes. It also poses challenges for transmission network, which largely hugs the coastal population belts. And a state may have an influx of surplus wind at one moment, but lack the transmission capacity to ship it to neighbors that could use it. Now, the state of Victoria has a goal to reach 50% renewable energy by 2030 and net zero emissions by 2050. And it launched the System Integrity Protection Scheme to secure 250 megawatts of power for at least 30 minutes in order to allow more electricity transfer through the line between Victoria and New South Wales. Now, there's a crucial need in Victoria to secure additional reliable electricity supplies, says Victoria's Minister of Energy, Environment and Climate Change. Tapping batteries is a tool to deal with transmission constraints that opens the door to the development of exceedingly large batteries. But projects at the scale of Victoria's remain rare. Germany is gearing up for a large-scale battery installation under its Grid Booster initiative. But in the US, a leader in many forms of battery development, storage as transmission regulations remain underdeveloped. Congress and the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission have classified storage as a possible transmission tool, but it wasn't until this year that a regional grid operator, MISO, finalized regulatory frameworks for a storage transmission asset. Now, the groundbreaking project in Australia doesn't necessarily serve as a precedent for regulatory proceedings in other countries, but a real operational data from a large-scale insatiation of the concept could bolster proposal to try this elsewhere. Battery projects are coming online. There are extreme benefits. So the overall effect of the Hornsdale Power Reserve is twofold. By storing power during low demand times, the Hornsdale reduces wasted power and locks in capacity at the lowest cost of time. And by leasing power during the highest demand times, the battery reduces the amount of edge case blackouts that affect South Australia's grid each summer when extreme weather meets peak consumption. Why is the grid so vulnerable? In the grand narrative arc of the South Australia battery farm, the inciting incident was a massive blackout in 2016. One of the worst storms hit South Australia in 50 years, knocked out 22 high-voltage power pylons, and the lines from these pylons that carry electricity generated near Port Augusta to the rest of the state. So at the time, South Australia's electric utility said 3 out of 4 transmission lines moving power from Adelaide and the north of South Australia were confirmed to be currently down. When those lines went down, a cascade of automatic safety switches appeared to have been flipped in order to protect the rest of the South Australia power network. And this is partially what happened in Texas last week as well, as I pointed out. Except theirs was a winter storm, and they had high demand that couldn't be met by their current production. The extent of the blackout led officials to shut down what did remain functional. The unpredictable surges and reroutes wouldn't short the rest of the equipment or start fires. In the aftermath, the conservative politician blamed the push for renewable energy for the extent of the blackouts. When the head of batteries at Tesla said he was sure the company could do better, an Australian billionaire asked if he was serious, and Musk jumped in to promise that his team won. Again, this is Musk on Twitter. Tesla can get the system installed and working 100 days from contract signature, or it's free. Is this serious enough for you? He reached his goal 40 days early, and the Australian billionaire funded the project as promised. Now the NEON-owned power reserve is literally a full capacity of Tesla power packs that receive and store energy from nearby wind and solar farms. By storing power up to its capacity of 100 megawatts, the battery can absorb brief blitz in the grid surrounding it, reducing outages for residences. The wind power played no role in the 2016 blackout. Through officials alleged in 2019, the local wind farms didn't have the generator infrastructure to absorb natural ebbs and flows. And the South Australia requires infrastructure because that allows the state to use so much renewable energy while keeping its grid stable. As coal plants are getting older, the grid loses one of its steady fallbacks. With high summer temperatures and providers sometimes shutting down the grid rather than risking fires, the overall amount of available power is lower in the summer for environmental reasons. It's a recipe for frequent nuisance blackouts each year from February to December. In this erratic peak season, the Hornsdale facility is most impactful. The Tesla battery can respond to these frequency events much more quickly than coal or gas-fired fire generators and have traditionally performed the role in Australia at a much lower cost. The grid has a heartbeat that needs to be regulated. In Australia, their grid frequency is 50 hertz or 50 cycles per second, as opposed to North America, which is 60 hertz or 60 cycles per second. Batteries really are able to solve a multitude of problems. The Tesla Power Pack is a ready-to-stack format comprising individual battery pods packaged together in a weather-safe unit. It's kind of a commercial counterpart to the Powerwall, which is a home solution that stores power from panels and releases it as it is needed in the evening. This Power Pack website includes a cogent testimonial from a Target retail store. This technology offers unique benefits to powering our buildings, most importantly, relieving stress from the electrical grid at peak times. Instead of relying on coal plants or the renewable farms themselves, South Australia could be solar, wind, or hydro to provide a stopgap power during peak times, and the Hornsdale facility steps in when the power might be cut off otherwise. So again, South Australia is somewhat similar to Texas. They have their own independent grid, and it's managed by the Independent Australia Market Operator, and it's sold through the National Electricity Market to electrical retailers. So times of high demand, the Murray Link Riverland and Haywood Limestone Coast electricity interconnectors can import electricity into South Australia from the eastern states. And the electricity is transported from power stations by transmission and distribution networks, where it is then sold to end users by retailers. So Australia has a very it's an island continent, so they're supplying their own power from either coal, solar, wind, or hydro, or natural gas. And these battery backup systems are going to be part of how we can firm up future renewable energy projects and make them reliable and low cost for the future. I'm going to put some links in the description. If you have any questions about this topic, please feel free to reach out to me. Yukon Gold is all about creating a sustainable future for everyone on planet Earth. We help people to reach their full potential by delivering the gold standard in renewable energy, design, and education. Follow, like, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and check us out at yukongoldenergy.com.